Let's talk just once more about Delphi. And I don't like to have to put such a disclaimer onto a video talking about murders, but let's assume this is for entertainment purposes, because it is. It's a discussion, it's opinion, not necessarily my opinion. It's something that can be speculated on based on fact, but I'm not saying it is fact, and I'm not saying I want you to think it is fact. It's a discussion about the Delphi murders and looking at it from a point of view of, let's try and work out what might have been meant by non-secular science if we are to take as gospel a redacted statement by Robert Ives, who said that the signatures at the scene were non-secular. Because what might this mean? Let's have a look at that. So you've got this small town in Indiana. It's like many others. There are the old settlers' blood. There's the blow-ins working at the big industrial sites. There are the schools, the hospitals, maybe the failing infrastructure. There's attempts to create new interest with historical societies and planning committees. It's a town that has its law enforcement agencies and fire departments, its churches, and it has its problems. One problem could be that it hasn't grown in population for decades, or rather it probably rose and then fell, and it sits at about 3,000. Another problem is that violent crimes occur and they are simply unsolved, and this little society has to somehow make sense of this and move forward in their life. And are they thinking that someone there hiding in plain sight amongst them is a brutal murderer? Does hiding in plain sight mean this? Or does it just mean some particularly nondescript, random, faceless, nameless person who could be anywhere and could be anyone is a brutal murderer, and nothing really to do with their town other than this is the mark that they've left on it? You know, what does hiding in plain sight mean? Does it have anything to do with these signatures? If this is all true, you know. Stop. Oh yeah. So, who would describe themselves as hiding in plain sight? What does this mean? I mean, was this speaking directly to the killer? Or, you know, do you think that they were speaking to you, trying to give you a clue? Maybe they were talking to a society within a society, and only specific people are going to know. Do they describe themselves as hiding in plain sight? Well, very likely they'd be able to interpret that statement for what it is, if indeed it is aimed at them, because frankly, this is what this society within society does. They hide in plain sight, and they don't even try to hide, which is the funny thing, but that they communicate through symbols, through signs, and they're everywhere. So was this message, this press statement, for them? I mean, small towns are riddled with this society within a society. Indiana's no different. You've got to consider that in these societies are everybody and anybody, from old settler familial bloodlines to the new blood, from people in fire departments, law enforcement agencies, telegraph line, communications companies, everywhere. And they're involved in benevolent societies. Helping the vulgar and profane might be a way they would put it. So I do wonder if Indiana 211 is run by the Freemasons. Now, you might say, what do you mean? Why would they be non-secular? I mean, sure, they're Christian, aren't they? Don't they have to pledge that they have faith in a higher power, or belief rather? Oh, well, yes, they do. A higher power. They don't have to specify. Now, who might this higher power be? Would you be wrong in assuming that this group of people is made up of Christians? Yes, you would. So what could it mean? Well, how do they express their rituals? They express their beliefs through the ritual of witchcraft. Some people in this town are thought of to be practicing in witchcraft. Well, if they're Freemasons, they are. And there's plenty of people involved in this case that one could fully expect would be a Freemason in Indiana. It's that wouldn't be wild speculation at all. So if we just imagine for a minute that some of the, rumor, should we say, is true, that the Freemasons worship Lucifer and express this worship through witchcraft rituals, then could this relate to the signs at the site, and therefore could this possibly be a reason as to why this case is unsolved 4 years later, when you've got apparently maybe some signs, when you've got apparently maybe some video footage and audio, when you've got maybe possibly witnesses? Why isn't it solved 4 years later? So it's not like the scene was left undiscovered for too long. I mean, it was sad that Tobe Leesenby, the sheriff at the time, called off the search at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and didn't forge ahead. And just sad that it was very late the next day when the search actually got underway properly again. But the girls were found on the 14th of February 2017. And there was an FBI agent in town too. So with all of this, finding the girls, or, discovering that the girls are missing quickly, finding them the next day, an FBI agent in town, and video and audio of a possible perpetrator, right? And they can't wrap this one up. So let's just say there were signs at the scene that pointed to Freemasonry. Well, the people investigating might recognize it as such. And what if the witness was a Freemason and recognized the perpetrator? Are these things all going to help in some way, help the case not be solved? Could a witness perhaps misdirect a person who's come to search? Could they pervert the timeline in some way, therefore perverting justice further, warping the possibility of what people consider what coulda, woulda, shoulda, mighta, oughta, you know. What could some of these signs be? I mean, look, the rituals that Masons are carrying out over and over again, they mime out what might happen to them if they don't respect their oath of silence, you know. Do you think this is all bullshit, by the way, when people are doing this right in front of you, you know? Heads of state and actors and rap artists, they just doing it for a joke. Even Obama went like this, didn't he? But is this because of their blood oath, their vow of silence? But, you know, what sort of things are they acting out? Well, you know, a noose around the neck. Now, certain Freemasons might just assume, no, this is just representative of the yoke that binds me to my society, to my master, to our ideals. Maybe it's a noose. Plenty of people that are thought to have been Freemasons or known to be Freemasons, perhaps in the entertainment industry, have been found hung in parks. So, did they break a vow of silence somehow? Tongues being cut out, skulls removed with brains exposed to the sun, hearts out and dissected, strewn. Could it be the placement of people making a compass and a square? Could it be vulgar in that regard? Was something, just something recognizable instantly to the right people? And what was the message to the people hiding in plain sight? You know, in that presser. Carter brings up the shack, you know, and we know it was Kelsey that brought up the shack to Renner with a funny little laugh, rather queer. But then she's mentioned it to Carter, and he's mentioned it in this presser, and, you know, Sam Worthington plays the father in the shack. Why would he want to do that if he's a Luciferian? There's something degrading in this theology, isn't there? There's no God-fearing in this, the shack. It's like every man and his dog's going to get to heaven. God loves everybody. Well, I'm sorry, but it's nearly impossible to get to heaven. But for the Luciferian, who hates Jesus Christ, I can imagine they were quite happy to make this little film. Is that what it means? I mean, it talks about the trilogy, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and in the Masonic symbol, you've got the G, ancient Hebrew for 3. Is this all just a little bit of a joke? I mean, really, how far do we go with these conspiracies? You know, would you rather think it's a trucker from out of town travelling the routes through Zion, Evansdale and Delphi, easily moving between industries or firms, you know, working for himself or what, you know? Would you rather just think it's just some strange 40-year-old person who's harboured these desires and has just snapped? You know, some degenerate that isn't really living around you, maybe some drifter you'll never see again, but eventually they'll catch. You don't want to think the hiding in plain sight as a pastor or a teacher, but this is what many of you think. And you think of that, it helps you along because of the non-secular idea. But, you know, who knows? You know, if you're going to think of signs and symbols, there's nearly nothing in this earth, on our earth, in human culture, more prevalent than Freemasonic symbolism. It's pervasive, it's everywhere. It is right in front of your eyes. Look at it with your eyes wide open, not eyes wide shut. and wake up and smell the putridness that they want the human race to be other than them, because this is how they think of others, unworthy, no value, no respect and reverence for ritual, no grace, no taste, no class, nearly, no, just, didn't want to go diverting like that, but it's just something that, if you're going to think about signs, non-secular signs, signatures, the contraction of signatures as signs, if you're going to think about that, then, well, you're going to have to consider Freemasonry, the most ritualistic society within our society, the most prolific user of symbols and signs ever to behold. And if you think it's a joke, if you think the entertainment industry is just, they enjoy, it's art, it's these pretty pictures, it means nothing, if you just think this is just a way that men stand there with their suit, it's a way to pose, it's GQ, even if politicians do it. If this is what you think, you're a fool. Because how blatant do they have to be? Now you can believe they're benevolent. That's your choice. You can believe in the benevolence of something that is hiding in plain sight, is so pervasive and yet secret. You can believe in that. You can believe in that human society and culture is okay. Look at what they've got. They want the plebs. The plebs are returning to animals. They're corrupted through entertainment, and then the corruption is cemented through the legislation, and then you're screwed. Look at how we're acting, you see. We're not being human animals. We're not bringing our extra conscientiousness and conscience into our society. It's being removed, and we are just animal. And what is animal? What is nature to an animal? If there is young of someone that doesn't belong to you, destroy it. Destroy that bloodline. If there is a human being, what do human beings with consciousness and compassion and living in this very conscious way, what do? They have family close, and they don't destroy it, and this is how they stay. And they can look after others. They have that true compassion, benevolence, conscientiousness. And it's not saying that other animals aren't kind, thoughtful, compassionate. They can be. But nature is to destroy the young of others. And this is what we've got. Young, dumped off anywhere and then destroyed. And we are defiling our race. We are regressing. We are becoming animalistic again, not human animalistic. People make fun of my name and they go, haha, animal, yeah, you're just an animal, and whatever. But they don't get it. I want our humanity. We need to acknowledge our wholeness and what we truly can be, and yet it's being raped right from us, isn't it? It's taken right from us. We're being corrupted and lowered. And anywho, so, Jesus Christ is the way, the truth,